Alright guys, let's begin with the basics. So we have a Docker file and we have chosen to download an image with the name of Node. This image is tagged with this version here. So that's our Docker file. In the same directory we have Docker compose YAML file where we define our services. And here we have defined one Docker REST service. Since we have provided option for the build context to be on the current directory, this means that our Docker compose YAML file will read our Docker file, fetch this image, and will use it in order to create a new one. And the new one will be with a name of Docker REST and with a tag of v1. If we remove the build phase from our Docker compose, while creating this Docker REST service container, Docker will try to fetch the image from its local registry. And if there is no such, it will go and fetch it over internet. This means that the build specifies that we would like to rebuild the container using a Docker file and this image in order then to have it in our registry with the Docker REST name and v1 tag. If we don't have build phase, Docker compose can just start the container and run it using the following image. Docker allows for our services or containers to specify volumes. Volumes are used to access persistent data outside or inside of the container. There are two types, bind mount and named volumes. Volume of type bind mount links a static directory which is local to our node or host machine to a directory inside of the container. So we specify as a source our local directory and as a target a directory inside of the container. For volumes of type volume, we are linking data inside of the container with a created from Docker volume. So that's why initially we create one volume here under the volume section with the name of dbData, and then we provide this volume as a source of our data directory inside of the container. This way, when we are browsing data inside of the container, we'll be able to have access to the dbData volume. We can pass variables to our services inside of their build phase by using the args option. In this case, we are using user_var variable and we set it to user1. And since we are in the build phase and the context will look up for our Docker file, inside of the Docker file, after downloading the provided by Docker Hub Alpine image, we are using this user_var and we are displaying it on the screen. So in this case, Docker compose is passing via the arguments user_var to Docker file, and then the Docker file accepts the user_var and it's displaying it on the screen. We can also set variables in .env environmental file. For this example, we've set env user_var equals to user1. Then in our Docker compose, we can read this variable with the following syntax. Automatically Docker will load up the env file and we will read the variable here in our Docker compose. And then, while we are building the image for this web service container, the Docker file will be able to read the variable user_var. The benefit of this approach is that we can use docker ignore and store in the env file sensitive data which will not submit to third parties. For sensitive data, Docker offers usage of secrets. In this example, we have two secrets, db password and MySQL root password. So Docker will read the contents of those two text files and will store them into an in-memory file system that can be read only by the creator of the container. After the creation of the secrets, we need to expose them to our services. Here we are using MySQL and we are making the secrets available in the secrets section of the DB service. As a third step, we are setting environmental variables which we'll need to pass to MySQL as authentication, and those are the database, the user, and two of the passwords, one for MySQL configuration and one for our user. Note that we are providing them from location run secrets, MySQL root password, which is in memory, and this way the secrets are never read from a configuration file. This increases the security of the produced image. I hope you enjoyed the information, and if you find it useful, you can subscribe to the channel.